Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of On Campus. We are here at the Solano College TV studio, and I am Domingo, Daynes, your host today, and I am joined here with our special guest, our women's head coach, Alonso Frias. And we're going to be going into an interview about, what's going on over there on that side of the soccer team. So my first question is going to be about you specifically. It's going to be, what got you into coaching?
Yeah, so I've been playing soccer for as long as I can remember. I played club, I played high school, I played a little bit in UPSL. So I always knew that I wanted to do something in soccer as a career. Right. And also me playing for so long, I felt like I never had a coach that really guided me to where I wanted to go, especially because soccer was such a huge part of my life. There was never anybody I could really go to for advice. There was nobody that ever asked me like how I was doing. So I think growing up in this community, I didn't want somebody to go through the same things that I did. So I think those two things mixed together just made me realize that I want to be a soccer coach as a career.
Yeah, and it wanted you to be there for those players that kind of related to you when you were a player and you were trying to be like, okay, well, no one was there for me, so I'm going to be there for the people that I can be, and that's how you create really an impact, and that's really amazing. Also, I had a question. You said UPSL. Could you break down what that is for the people at home?
Yeah, it's kind of like semi-professional. It's kind of like technicality what it is.
Yeah.
There's like a local team in Vacaville. There's one in Vallejo. So it's pretty competitive. It's older players usually. But the landscape is semi-professional basically.
Yeah. Dang, that's really interesting that just to be able to sit here in front of you today that I am talking to a semi-pro, even though you're a coach.
In the past.
Yeah. But I mean, look, that's experience on the board. So I also want to go into your coaching experience now, which is how long have you been coaching for?
This will be my 7th year, because when I first started, it was kind of like a little bit before COVID. I started off as a volunteer assistant at Armio for the boys varsity team.
Right. So we're going to get into that as well. So, your time coaching at Armio, are you still coaching there as well?
I'm still coaching there right now, yes.
Okay, yeah. So your time at Armio, coaching at Armio, how has that been for you?
Yeah, I think it was a pretty good transition just because of the pathway that I chose or that I had the opportunity to take. Mm-hmm. So started off as a volunteer assistant, went on to coach JV, won the league back-to-back, eventually got the varsity job. And I think it was just the last season we had was pretty tough just because of outside factors. And obviously I take responsibility for a lot of it because I have to. But there was 10 players who didn't make grades. 8 of them were potential starters. There was an altercation at one of the games where I had 6 players suspended for half the season. There was games where I had more JV players on the field than actual varsity players. So there was a lot of outside factors that I feel like ended up hindering the season. We ended up finishing 4th, so I think it's just a learning lesson for sure.
Yeah, would you say that's a learning lesson as a coach as well?
Yeah, for sure, but I feel like it's more in terms of player responsibility as well. But obviously me just getting ahead of things probably a little bit sooner. Obviously I can't hold their hand with homework and studying and stuff like that, but maybe just getting ahead of it with grades and different things like that for sure.
Yeah, and as a coach, seeing those outside factors as a challenge, how can you implement influence to your players to tell them, okay, look, you guys are taking this lightly. You guys think that this might be a joke, and you guys have dreams of becoming pros or anything that's higher than the high school level. How can you influence them to tell them that their time here will be short? You know?
I think kind of just putting it into perspective, because high school you're only playing for 4 years, and then after that you're kind of on your own.
Exactly.
And it kind of ties together with club, just because with playing club soccer you only go up to U19. So I think it's just putting a perspective of them hey, if you don't have good grades here, and especially with the landscape with playing professional where the MLS draft is getting bigger and bigger each and every year, I think there should be a bigger emphasis in players going to play college soccer and then moving on to professional. So I think just putting the perspective of hey, if you don't go play college soccer, the chances of you playing pro are none.
Yeah.
So just having them realize that, I think is tough.
Yeah, so I have a question actually about that. What is the route for soccer for making it to the pros? Is it the same thing for as football where you're doing you're going high school, college, or like you just said, it goes high school, clubs, maybe travel clubs and stuff
Yeah.
like that, then college, and then the
The MLS does have like
draft?
a little draft, kind of what they do like with NBA and
Yeah,
NFL and
yeah.
stuff like that.
So how does that work?
I think it's the most common way now, I would say, is playing college soccer,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there getting drafted through the MLS draft. Obviously, there's players who go on trials. We see it a lot in Mexico, for example. You go on a trial to an academy and you build your way up. You play for the U17s, U18s, U19s, and then kind of work your way to the first team.
Yeah.
A lot of like the Earthquakes, the local MLS team here, they kind of carry that same system where they have a club travel team where they have like a U17, U18, U19, and you kind of work your way up to playing for like the first team, which is a professional team.
Yeah, nice. I mean, I've always wondered about that because, I used to play soccer. I also used to play football, but I never really never really knew, how the route was to get
Yeah.
to like professional soccer. I remember I was just like, man, Messi was in,
Best player and
I
stuff
know,
like that, yeah.
and he was in there at a young age, super
Yeah.
young age. That's all I remember. And I was like, man, I'm like the same age already. Why haven't I not been like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and now I want to get into a question that is about, maybe your internal self, or maybe it could be seen as a coaching question, which is like, what have you learned about yourself while you've been coaching that maybe you haven't learned about yourself or as a player standpoint while you were a player?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was work ethic. I think when I was growing up and playing soccer, obviously I was good to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And I didn't like training. I hated training. I only wanted to play. Like there'd be days where instead of going to go train, I'd rather go play with my friends. And I think that was like the biggest thing that like challenges you to move on to the next step, and kind of something I feel like I lacked. And I think just implementing that to the players that I'm coaching now, just noticing how much of importance a work ethic is. Like training outside of practice, or even treating a practice like a game, getting as many reps in as you can. So I would say for sure a work ethic.
Yeah, so would you say that your mentality, as a coach would probably be like practice how you play and not be a practice diva? Would you say you were a practice diva?
Oh man, I don't know if I would put it that way, but probably something similar. Yeah, I just like playing the game, and just because I felt like I could do a lot of things without training,
Yeah.
I felt like it wasn't needed.
Right.
But it's I think it causes mistakes. It causes you to make turnovers. It causes you to not be aware, not checking your shoulder, just little different cues that should be coming naturally. But because you're not training, they're not happening.
Yeah, and that's just like taking the next step as a player. And, those are things that really come out during the game day. Like you just said,
for
those
sure.
minor errors could lead to a game-costing goal.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're supposed to be here when your teammate's crossing the ball over to you. You miss it because your footwork is bad and you're not hitting cones,
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just like small things like that that really just makes the game different when you put in that work ethic, like you said. And I'm pretty sure it sounds like you're going to implement that a lot, while you're going to be coaching. So since how do I explain this? Coming into a new environment, what is your mindset, that to build trust with your players and, transitioning to Solano?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was kind of the culture shift,
Yeah.
because this college team had been ran the same way for 23 years. So ever since it was established, there had been the same head coach for 23 years. So I think the biggest thing was obviously just trying to change the culture, trying to implement my game system, probably a little bit more direct soccer, and just my style of play. I mean, a lot of different training sessions that go into it. And I think it was just a culture shift that needed to happen, especially because I feel like even soccer has changed in the last 3 years. It has changed a lot.
Yeah.
So I think just making those changes, it's gonna take some time, but I think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, and you want to continue to just shift over to how you see the game. I mean, I've seen this in like pro sports as well. I'm a 49ers fan, so we've had a few defensive coordinator changes the past few years, and you can see the difference between when a defensive coordinator is more of like a linebacker coach, and they're implementing the front of the defense compared to like maybe a defensive back coach, which is like focusing on the back side of the defense. And I don't know if that's how it is for soccer, where I know that there's different formations and there's different things that you can change as a coach and stuff like that. But I bet you're going to do an amazing job, implementing your way. And also you said the work ethic, all of that stuff. So, it sounds like you're about to do an amazing job. And
I hope so, God willing.
yeah, that's the best way to put it. So what is the difference between coaching high school and college? Because I know that you coached this college last year.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is there's more of a holistic approach with the college team. I think just because of where they are in life, a lot of them already kind of decided what they want to do as a career. They're working towards that. They're full-time students. They're working. And with the high school boys, I think it's a little bit more micromanaging. I feel like obviously the speed of play is a little bit faster and there's more technical soccer. But I think there's things you adapt to with both. Even with like the boys, for example, I think there's egos.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like there's a misconception with egos. I think they're not a bad thing unless they're not managed how they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I think with both, there's things you adapt to and things you just have to implement your style, whether it be women's, boys, kids, whatever it is.
Yeah, so do you think that your coaching approach changes between maybe, I don't know if it's a men's and women's thing or just like a high school and college thing? Do you think your coaching approach changes maybe for those two factors?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit more of a higher maturity for sure with the college team.
Oh, yeah.
And I think with the women's team, for example, they're more aware of how you say things and when you say things. The boys, for example, they just want to play.
Yeah.
So I think there is like little things for sure that you have to change. Obviously not changing your whole philosophy as a whole, but there's little tweaks that here and there that you need to make.
Nice. And so we're actually almost done with this interview. So I'm going to ask you our final question of the day is, what is your mentality or coaching philosophy when it comes to winning? And how can you create an impact on Solano's soccer team in the value of improvement of the team?
Yeah, so I've had the same philosophy for about, I think, 3 or 4 years now, and it's treating every game, practice, and aspect of life to the same standard, while striving to not make the same mistakes twice. So I think just trying to emphasize that as much as possible, because mistakes are going to happen whether you want it or not. Exactly. So I think that's where the improvement aspect comes with it. And I think just being prepared, having a good support system. I just added 3 new coaches this upcoming season. I added a strength and conditioning coach.
Nice.
I added a goalkeeper coach.
Whew.
So obviously just adding those tools that you need, because it's not just me, it's not just the players. Like there's a lot of different factors and support that you need. And I think those will all just tie together to improving. And me also just improving as a coach. This past December, after the season ended, I got my B license.
Nice.
Which is the second highest coaching license there is in the nation.
Really?
So just me also improving, going to school for it, obviously taking courses. I took another course with the San Jose Earthquakes as well recently. So I think just me also wanting and needing, I feel like, to be a better coach will help my players improve as well.
Yeah, especially if they see their leader, the person that's leading them into charge, that, okay, he's trying to get better. Okay, so we should try to get better. And it's not something that you even need to like push up on them. I think that when you do that as a leader, if you're a leader for a team or a coach or anything like that, when those players around you, excuse me, I just spit everywhere, but when those players see that, they're like, okay, man, he's doing that. Maybe I should be doing something a little extra. Oh, coach is over here doing drills and he's not even playing no more. Yeah. Okay, well, maybe I should, And there's things that's kind of how I was too when I was playing JV for football, and I eventually got moved up to varsity because of my work ethic, because I seen all the time that these varsity players were putting in, and I was like, man, I know I'm not the biggest person in the world, so like I gotta, use some type of
to like make up for it.
I had to make up for it, and that had to be my work ethic, whether it was in the weight room, on the field, doing cones, independent work, all of those things that just ties back into what you can bring as a coach or a player. So I think that that's just going to be amazing. I think that the women on the soccer team, they're going to see that and they're going to be like, hey, coach doing it, we got to do it. And one of those players, they will, if there's not already leaders on the team, then maybe you're going to create some just based off of how you view the game and how your perspective is as a coach. So, I think that this is going to be amazing, and you're going to change the program definitely, for sure. You said 23 years, man.
It's out the window now, so now
out the window.
It's time to, but it's also like putting it into action, because it's easy to say from the outside for sure. So
right.
I think now it's like implementing it.
It's game time. The moment is here. The moment can't be too bright. You've been waiting for it. Yeah.
Well, I'm ready for sure. 100%.
Exactly. And that's crazy. You just been changing the program too, like you said you signed. I don't know how it works.
It was
the coaches.
And then I have 15 new recruits coming in.
15 new recruits. So you've been doing your work, not just as a coach, but you've been
recruiting
all around. So I think that's like, man, you're ready steps ahead of the game. So I think you're gonna have a good job. And man, I really enjoyed our time here today. Thank you guys for joining here on another episode of On Campus at the Solano College TV studio. Thanking our guest here today, Alonso Frias, to joining me. I am your host, Domingo Daynes, and we will see you on another episode of On Campus. Have a good day, y'all.
If you are interested in a career in sports broadcasting,
whether you're commentating a live game
or hosting your own TV show,
for more information, contact Greg Poff. That's me at solano.edu.
we hope to see you here next semester. And remember,
it's more than just sports, it's an education.